but I'm being kicked out of the community because
Yeah.
I can't afford the rent.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. So I'm taking it with a grain of salt.
Real Roxbury in the
Oh,
building.
wait,
It's fire.
Wait, so I have a question. So what was your role model at the time? I want to be able to ask everybody that. Like, what role model did you look up
Don't say
to
it.
during that time that helped you
What's the
inspire
Gen
you?
X role model? It must be like Michael Jackson or like
Yeah.
Prince.
Oh, you got
Some shit like that.
I was into comic books, so Wonder Woman was
That's fire.
my role model back then. Wonder Woman, Superman.
When she like spins and turns into
No, just the
shit?
fact that
That era.
yeah, that
Yeah.
era, Wonder Woman, like I was into Spider-Man real bad. Like
Yeah,
Spider-Man
Spider-Man
was one
tough.
of my heroes. Like yes, like that's how it was back then. But as far as that's a fantasy. But as far as a role model was my grandmother. My grandmother
Yeah.
was one of the strongest little 4'10" women that I ever saw in my life. She was something else. Marion Stroud. She was something else. Marion. She took care of her kids, all of them.
That's fire.
All of them. And my grandmother had a lot of children, and what makes it so funny with my grandmother stopped dating at the age in her 50s. Yeah, she stopped. And when I was 15 years old, I asked her, why don't you have a boyfriend? Why don't you have anybody? She's like, oh no, I got my grandkids, I got my kids, this is my life, and that's it. And she was content
That's real.
with that life. I don't see me being content with that kind of life, but my grandmother was. You know what I mean? My grandma was content with that kind of life. She was,
I like that. I like that your grandmother was able to have like multiple kids and stuff like that. Now, like in this generation, like girls be like, "Oh, you're gonna destroy my body."
yeah,
You know what I mean?
or yeah, it's becoming.
Maybe you want a family, bro. Like maybe you want.
Yeah,
you know,
but-
multiple-
but-
You sound like you have some other feelings over there, brother. 'Cause
Yeah.
I
I'm
don't
trying
know.
to destroy
I don't
pussy,
know.
bro.
Like,
You've heard that before?
like kudos to
You've
your
heard that
grandma,
before?
but I'm a strong believer that we need to live for ourselves. Because the more I love myself, the more I love my children. Because if I love myself infinitely, like how can I not love what I created? So I'm not saying that her grandma was wrong. I come from a generation of those kind of women, but I don't know. I don't know, brother. You sounding like you don't know.
Wait, you don't think? Wait, so you don't think that as generations go down, that the younger generation is more self-centered than the older one?
I think we should be more self-centered. Actually, I
said you
teach.
should be, so
I
so you
teach
think
my daughter
okay.
to love herself. I teach my sons to love themselves. You take care of yourself first, because when you take care of yourself and you have a good relation, like I believe in God. I don't force God on anyone. I don't believe in religion, but I believe in God. So I like teach my children, like have a really good relationship with God, have a really good, strong, positive belief in yourself, because anything that comes from you, you're gonna love it. So your children, like, how could you not love and cater and take care of them? But I hear what you're saying, but we didn't do enough of that. Hey, what about me? Especially as Black women, like we have like the highest rate for everything. Our children die quicker, we die quicker, like everything. So,
And we were even blamed for the young man being killed.
Oh Jesus! This was a recent thing. Don't you? Oh.
They blamed the black women, the single black woman. So yeah, that
And the men in prison. Come on, like everything. Where we are.
we always get blamed for everything.
But I think that's the lesson. Teaching
women get
our
blamed for
sons. Like my son the other day, he said it, and we just talk a lot. And
What'd he
he's
say?
13 years old, and he said, I forgot what the topic was, but he said something. Somebody said something about like somebody acting privileged, like a Black girl at school, and he was like, and I thought it was so freaking stupid because she's Black and she's a woman. And he was like, so it's almost like she's at the bottom of the bottom. He's like, so I don't know how.
Wait, your son
Well,
said
no,
that?
he doesn't mean that. He means society. He meant that the person who was arguing with that woman was trying to say like she was acting privileged because of what she was arguing. And in fact, she gets the brunt of everything because she's a Black woman. And, I just kind of looked at him and I just said, thank you. I'm happy that you see us. And I think that's fundamental. It doesn't matter what generation you're in. It's about what you're teaching your children at home. What you're taking from your parents and you're saying like, wow, I need to make sure I keep that going. And also recognizing like the traumas and the things, and forgiving your parents, forgiving your grandparents. And because when you forgive them, then you're able to see the wrong and not feel like any guilt for saying like they were wrong in this. But it doesn't mean that they were wrong because they chose to be wrong. Like, I think it's just about educating ourselves and really, yeah. Anyways, I'm gonna say, you guys, sorry.
You know, I have to say one thing. And you asked, nobody's ever asked me who my role model was.
We waiting for you.
Well,
Oh, we were going in a circle. Yeah. I'm talking.
Go ahead, Miss Dollar.
should I? Thank you. I was thinking a lot about what you had just said, and I had to think back. And because of the time that I grew up, I don't have any role models from that time. And I had to think about while you all were talking, I'm like, wow, I don't remember any. Because at the time that I was growing up, there were no images of black people around me. If you were not involved in the church, you didn't have in a black church. And, I was raised Catholic. So there was nothing white on the walls for me. There was nothing black in the books that I saw. There was nothing black on the television. There was nothing black in a movie. If there was anything black in a movie, it was somebody like a Step and Fetch It or something out of Tarzan. So in none of the books, and I don't know what folks feel, there was nothing at all. I didn't even see a black doll until I was like 12. They just didn't exist. So what I did, and it has an effect on what I do now, I started reading a lot, trying to find me. And so I read and read. When I first really got together and saw the things I needed to see, it was frankly my first year in college in the Black Study Department. And that's why I took a class in theater, and it changed my life. So I had those, and then I could go back in history and see things, but I never saw anything. There was nothing that looked, and I was, short-haired, nappy little girl, who was skinny and then got fat and was tall. You talk about I got beat up. I got pulled out, and my mother would send me back out there. Don't come in here crying. We used to get sent back out to fight. Don't come here crying. You go back out there and you fight. Yeah.
The new generation's soft though.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You go back out there.
And to piggyback off what Val, when she said she saw no images, growing up. For me, I grew up Generation X, and I grew up Muslim. So I grew up in a time where I was empowered. I was power to the people. I was self-dependent, disciplined. It taught me those skills for when I went into the entertainment world. I was always so grateful that I grew up in that environment because it taught me discipline. It taught me how to, take a project, a goal, and really, they instilled that in me, growing up, that I was somebody. So then from that moment of coming out of the nation and seeing Blue Hill Ave was all filled with black-owned businesses, to now see it, to come back home after 25 years later, to see the gentrification, to see the change, to be out of place. I'm confused. I'm like, I grew up here and I don't even know where I'm at. I'm like, I can't even find my way back, like Dorothy from The Wiz. I'm just like in this tornado, and so for me, even growing up here, I went to an all-girl white school in Newton. So I'm like a bougie black girl, bougie ghetto girl. They say, oh, you're black, but you can speak. You're articulate, but I'm different, right. And being in the industry and dealing with Caucasian people, I got a lot. Oh, but you're different. No, but I'm black. But you're different.
But you're different.
Well, so a lot of times for me, coming out of the nation, I always walked around wanting to show by example. So you're saying I'm nobody. So I'm going to show you I'm somebody. I walk with my head held high. I have pride in what I'm doing. I articulate. I speak my mind. And I don't believe those stereotypes because I know they're just stereotypes. And I also grew up knowing that if you're telling me I'm less than, I must be the opposite of what you're telling me. So I always thought, and I always just had this grandioso attitude about myself. By any means necessary. So for me, and in being in the entertainment industry, I am a singer, an actress, a model, a dancer, and going through the LA scene, the Hollywood scene, and what I had to endure in that scene, and then coming back home to Boston to have, and thank you for allowing me to be on your platform, but to be shown really no love. It just baffles me. So I just want to try to be around an environment now where we can stop talking about we don't help each other, we're like crabs in the barrel. Let's not talk about it, be about it. So I got to get out. I got to be the change I want to see. So let me get out and try to find, and maybe I'm supposed to, make that change. I had the experience to go to LA, live in that environment, do commercials, do music, tour. I met broke bread with the best of the best celebrities or whatever that are my friends, and that world, it's very, very, it's very harsh. And thanks to my morals and my belief in God, Allah, but even though I wasn't really practicing at that time, as I was moving in that arena, it gave me the strength to turn a lot of stuff down. It empowered me, because a lot of times the youth they don't have the strength, the mental strength, to turn down all the things that they're being, presented with, the drugs, the casting couch, all that stuff. I've been through it all, and I was able to walk away from it and still be able to look like I look and have my mental still, So
I mean, let me say this about the casting couch. I mean, it might be a thing, but you, as a woman, you go in a situation, you need to make money, and somebody says to you, if you don't suck my dick, I'm not giving you a job. Ain't no funny shit about that. And you have to make the decision. I got to eat. I got to live. What am I going to do? What decision am I going to make?
And that's where your faith comes in.
Yeah.
So,
but that's what it
yeah.
is.
Because plenty of times I've been up against that living in LA. You're struggling. You're a struggling artist, and you need to pay your rent.
Black women.
And I've been confronted, but at the same time, I'm like, I could do that, or I can. Yeah. Or let me just wait a little longer. And that's what that faith and belief in when you say you believe in God and what you believe in, what you practice, what you speak, what you feed yourself. A lot of Erykah Badu talks about, you feed what you put in your, what is that song? What you put in your mouth, what you feed your soul is what you produce back out. So with the information that you surround yourself with is the energy that you're going to attract. So for myself, even though that information was being presented, I had to make a decision. I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. And I had to be bold in the stance at one situation I had. I had to tell my agent, please don't send me out on another rap video. I got tired of wearing panty bra to an audition just to get work. And then when you work on the sets, it's just degrading, So you have to, as a person, I think as an individual, like she was saying, being empowered, you just have to just kind of like say, do I want that $1,200 or, and just kind of make another decision and go another way. And it's just.
I was going to ask you guys, do you guys feel like the girls in your generation are different? I'm sorry.
No, that's exactly what I was going to ask. First of all, let's shift gears. Because do you guys want to get married?
Married?
I want to answer the role model question.
You want to answer the what?
The role model question.
I forgot about that. Okay.
It better be a
We
movie.
got our turn on it.
We're proud of you guys.
It's J. Cole.
No.
That's the meaning.
Hold on.
J. Cole, bro.
Oh, wait, grab his. He's not saying nothing. That's the meaning.
That we're proud.
That's the meaning.
I didn't mean it in a demeaning way.
I feel you, but it's like,
who's
your role model, man? Tell us who's
I
your
just
role
thought it
model.
was cool that you wanted to answer.
Who's your role model?
Because I want to know.
Nah,
Who's your role model?
And I just wanted to tie it all together based off what they were saying because, when you originally asked the question, I was going to go in like the joking manner and be like, Allen Iverson and Bow Wow and Lil Romeo, but like hearing them speak, I'd be doing a disservice to like my mother to not say that she was my role model. And then, with even the question you talked about selfishness and everything, and it's like seeing even like if I'm 23, but at her age, she already had me. I was already 1 year old. She came from another country. She came from Cape Verde, and I couldn't even imagine just like transplanting myself and everything I built right now to go to a different country and just start over and then try to like learn on the fly. Like you're not criticizing, but you talked about how like people are selfish nowadays, but you should be selfish at this age. You spoke on, not having children until you pursued certain, aspirations that you had, and you should, because my mom and my aunts are learning on the fly while raising a child. So imagine you don't even process, the traumas that you went through. You don't even have a full understanding of who you are, but you're still trying to grow another human being. So I implore not to knock anybody who's having kids or whatever the age they have, but I know I'm gonna be selfish, because once I have a kid, I understand there's no more room to be selfish at that point. So I might as well get it out my system now before I have a kid, and I sacrifice everything for them at that point. Because I know what it takes.
Too, right? I feel like when you said that question, it was interesting to me, because I feel like men have always had the privilege to be selfish.
That's a fact.
I feel like as the generations went on, women have become more independent, and you're calling that selfish. I was like, why do you feel that way? You feel me?
Well, the first thing I'm saying is, like, I'm not judging anyone to say, like, if you're selfish, that's bad. I did not say that. I just said as generations go down, you get more about the individual. If that's a fact or if that's a thing.
But that's how it should have been.
Yeah, but
it should have been like that from the jump.
Is that false? Or
but do you think it's because we have a higher understanding of, like, mental health and everything, and having to, like, learn about ourselves and learning from, like, my parents are just as much the blueprint of what to do and what not to do at the same time. So maybe that's because of those reasons why we're becoming more self-centered, because we need to understand those things about ourselves before we can take on that responsibility.
My thing is, that's fine. I'm just saying, is it happening or is it not happening? Are we more self-centered than we were 3 generations ago?
True, but
yes.
But there's a reason for it. There's a valid reason.
And that's what we're talking about.
I don't think so.
You said you don't think so?
I think it just depends. It's like on an individual to individual basis for all of this stuff. You feel me, that we're talking about. I feel like for some of the stuff that you're talking about, as far as like people being like selfish, like you also have to think about like the circumstances that like created that like selfishness in them. You feel me? It was like cultivated in them as being like focus on yourself and make sure that you do what you have to do and move forward in that way. And I think like we're very like driven. Like again, like I think like social media plays like a huge role in like where people want to see themselves, because they have a lot more to like, they see themselves a lot more, kind of like in contrast to what you were describing before. Whereas like we see ourselves a lot more and we like can aspire for different things because we see it. How on the other side though, there's a lot of stuff that people might aspire for that is like very like toxic for them to be able to like pursue, and then it ends up with them like making decisions that lead to them like being like considered like selfish, but really like they're doing everything for people's approval. They're doing everything for the people around them and nothing for themselves. So it's not really like selfish. If anything, it's like the most selfless thing they could do, and it's like harming them at the same time. I feel you. I don't condone it, but I think that it's a reality. What do you mean by that? What do you mean by that?
If you're too nice, you're stupid. If you're too nice, I mean, people who are rarely nice, real nice. I mean, let's put it this way: if you like have $4 and somebody comes up, oh, I'm hungry, so you give them 2. Another person comes, oh, you give them 2. Guess what?
Dumbass.
You don't have any. You got no money. Now, if you can't help nobody, you're a very nice person, but you can't help anybody if you broke.
That's true. Like they say, when you get on the plane, you put your mask on first.
Right.
You can't put someone else's mask on.
If you're a very
your own mask on.
wonderful, happy, wonderful person, have something so you can share that. I mean, but don't be stupid, because if you're too nice, you're stupid. Period. That's the way it is. I mean, you'll be in the street with nothing, and someone who's not nice at all got all your money. You know what I mean? And they're like, fuck you.
But let me ask you this, right?
So I'm just saying,
hold on, right?
That's the way it is. But
where
the way
would we be right now if other people weren't breaking the bread for us?
Say it again, what?
Where would we be right now if other people weren't doing that for us?
Nothing. Where would you be? You wouldn't be. I mean, if somebody else wasn't doing anything for you, you mean?
Someone else wasn't doing what you're describing.
Yeah.
People weren't helping each other.
Oh,
Like
no, you have to
generational-
help. That's what you got to. You have to help each other, but you can't be like overly like. You can't hurt yourself. You have to be in a position to help people. That's all I'm saying. You got to be in a position to be like, hey, I got $100. Oh, here's 5. Here's 5. Here's 5. Here's 5. Here's 5. Oh, I got another 5 coming next week. You know what I mean? But you can't be stupid when you just give all your money out. Now you're broke. And then
No, for sure.
yeah, that's all. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe stupid is not the word, but naive to assume that like just because you're doing that people are gonna automatically reciprocate that. You know, you can't expect anything in return when you are giving back. Yeah. But I hear what you're saying. Maybe stupid is a little harsh, but I hear what you're saying at the same time.
I can be nice and harsh and firm.
No. I gotta say that.
Speaking of,
I say stupid because it is stupid to be too nice. It is.
Okay.
I mean, it is. I mean,
one thing.
It's a dumb thing.
I know I've been like harassing you guys about what's called Gen Zs, but also too, don't you think there's like some toxic like relationship ideas that like the older generation has about like, first they say that like, you know, these generations like they're never gonna get married, they have toxic ideas about relationships and et cetera, but these older generations, they stay together forever, but they really like hate each other.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean? So it was like, that's also toxic as well.
Yeah, because someone asked me, was I going to get married? I've never been married. I'm 55. And it's not that I haven't, no, it's never too late. Never too late, never too late. No, it's never too late. But it's just that for me, I find that the mentality of the men my age now, they're very insecure. If I don't answer my phone, I'm asleep.
Where you at? Okay.
Yeah, where you at? And it's a lot of stress, and I don't want the stress. So I'm comfortable at this point being just with myself, you know. And you guys mentioned some things that brought some ideas to my head because I consider myself a virtual mom. My son doesn't live with me. I pay child support. My son lives in another state. But I went through an abusive situation. And so sometimes you find yourself when you're like, you're on that path and things are going right and, things are just happening in positive and success. And then all of a sudden you get hit with the reality of going through life changes for me, living in LA and experiencing all that information. But you also got to live too, because it's not always the glamour. Because you got to pay your rent, you got to live, you got utility bills, you got normal lives, relationships, crazy people, mental illness, everybody, and then you find yourself in a place where, okay, I didn't ask for this. I'm a virtual mom. I don't see my kid. I pay child support. What's really going on, And then marriages, I had to remove all of the false contracts or the information that was embedded in me, and have to realize that no, some of us may not be married, and it's okay. It's living in society, the society norms, or you're old. What's it? What they call it? Old maid. You're an old maid, and I'm starting to think about that. And as I'm going through menopause, and I'm going through these changes, and this hot and cold, and just I'm like, I wouldn't even want to be with me. So I'm cool, just chilling, because I wouldn't want to take nobody through that. But yeah, you have something to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that. Well, thank you. I think that you're right. There is a lot of insecurity among men that I most of my life is in music, and music's a man's world. Okay, I do other things. I'm a storyteller that's solo, and theater is a whole nother level. Music's a man's world, and most of the time we perform it's at night. So there's alcohol and all that involved. And I mean, I found the insecurity. We're talking about men who are in music and men who are out there, and I see a lot of insecurity. With young musicians, I see a level of entitlement that is mind-blowing for where they're going. They feel entitled, and they're going to do this, and I know that 95% of them are not going to make any good money, and they don't know that. They feel entitled. I had one musician say to me, I said, well, let me introduce you. What's the name of the people in your band? He said, if the audience wants to meet us, they can come and talk to us when they're on their break. I'm like, yeah.
It's so mixed up.
You're talking about that, and it's a harder world. It's a more direct world. Music has made me extremely direct. I hope I didn't freak anybody out when I was talking about penis sucking. But, or blowjob. Which... however you want to prefer to deal with it.
You gotta get it out.
What do y'all call it? Same thing, right?
You know,
Head.
giving head. Oh, yeah.
So how do you guys feel about dating in 2023?
There it is.
Toxic relationships.
Yeah, this is
We all in relationships. So, I mean, is it that hard?
No, I'm saying it's hard. Like, it's good. Dating is fine. It's pretty smooth. I feel like people be like,
You
when
guys
you
are all in relationships? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Are they toxic?
I'm about to reach my 3-year anniversary next month. So,
Oh, 3 years.
Yes.
Old ass nigga.
I don't even know if 3 years is enough.
When I was his age, I was in a long-term relationship too. But see, it's crazy because when I was younger, that was my focus. I was in a relationship, you know, when I was 15 to 24.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Bust out that ring.
whatever happened didn't happen.
Bust out that ring.
And so, I mean, I'm just saying that, you know, you're there now, which is great, you know, but there was a time I was there, but then now I'm where I'm at this stage in the game, you know? So, I mean, I wish you the best of luck.
No, of course. You
But
know
who's
what?
In a room and talk about who's in a relationship, how long they've been in a relationship.
All these over here?
Because I know you guys might hear 3 years and be like, okay, wait till this happens or whatever. And I know those lessons that like you have to be privy to, like to grow together and not grow apart. Because we're gonna do a lot of growing.
Well, they say evenly yoked. 20s. You have to be evenly yoked.
Exactly. And
because if you're trying to change, you can't change. You never can change anybody.
you can't change. No, you got to take them for who they are. Yeah, for sure. And like,
I was once married and divorced too, so. Yeah, like I know it. Yeah. I've been in a relationship for 11 years. 11. Wow. Yeah, 11. With my man James. Yeah, 11 years. And I'll put it to you like this: the honeymoon stage is cool, but then comes the real shit.
Nah, I know.
No, we're not married.
No,
You know, at least not yet. At least not yet. But we've been together for.
You're married. You're married. They're married.
Yeah, right.
Might as well say. Well, might as well say. Yeah.
I mean, you're married. Once
Yeah,
you
might as well say like
that bed, you're married.
Yeah, like we've been together for 11 years, and the honeymoon stage was great and everything, but then after a while, here comes the real shit,
It gets
where
real,
all kinds of problems, all kinds of barriers. Basically, how did my mother say? The devil is a lie, and he's gonna try to test you.
Yeah,
as
that's a
much
fact.
as possible. He's always gonna put temptation in front of you.
Yeah.
Temptation is everywhere. Like you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And we went through our ups and our downs, but honestly, I don't see myself with anybody else. Because, I mean, no offense to my age, when I'm 47 years old, like, how do I look breaking up with him and starting over with somebody else?
You can get a Tinder.
well, that's one thing I'd be afraid.
I don't do Tinder. I don't do
none of those things.
I don't do none of those.
What are those?
Like I used to do the Black Planet dating app a long time ago. That's we're talking about a long time ago. You know what I mean? Like
I've never done one.
I used to do little small dating apps. MySpace too. I used to do MySpace, you know what I mean, and stuff like that. I got into dating apps, but then after a while, I forgot about the dating apps and just decided, screw it. If I meet him, I meet him. If I don't, I don't. You know, it's all about fate. Like trying to force. I mean, it's cutesy, you know, with dating apps and whatnot, but I just don't do it anymore.
I don't think that's very fair to be like it's forcing it. I'm 39 years old. My interests don't always align with men who are my age. I am in an environment where I'm around a lot of artists, or I'm around a lot of families that I'm working with in social work. So I don't think that it's very fair to say that, especially like I got married very young. I was married at 22 years old. Got divorced at 38. So for me, dating is very scary. It's something that I don't know even how to do as an adult. So I don't think it means that you're actually forcing it. It could just mean you're figuring out like you want conversations. You want to know what's out there, what are people like. So I don't think it's fair to say that. I do think dating is difficult at any age. You see teenagers crying. I remember having like a high school sweetheart.
We all did.
You know what I mean? Like,
we all did that.
but then I know but I know women who are well into their 50s who have had dating struggles their whole lives, or who've been married are now divorcees. So I think that dating in itself is a struggle. But what I want to say about like earlier when they talked about them being happier people, they are happier people. We destroyed the earth, and
The young people, the happier people?
They are happier people. We are still destroying the earth while they are literally like building our forests back. So we have to give them, that's how we grow too, right? They need to learn from us and we need to learn from them.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, being a happy person is an awesome thing. A lot of us believe in metaphysics. A lot of us believe in the law of attraction.
And my mother always
so
taught
being a
me.
happy person, I will give you my last goddamn dollar if it means it's gonna save your life. Because guess what? I've already probably paid my bills, so it's all good. My kids are gonna eat. If you need my last $20, I may give it to you. So it may not always mean that I'm dumb, especially if I may be giving it to someone whose opportunities are different. Like I'm not working right now. I still have my unemployment. I will go back to work. I've already gotten myself into a certain earning, even for social work. So I think it's about how you live your life. So to you, it may seem dumb, but me learning to just trust myself and live a life of good vibration may be working for me. And I feel like it's working for you guys, and please keep on doing it because we need this earth to be saved for my great-great-grandchildren.
Well, first of all, the depression rate is rising.
Teachable.
Yeah.
The depression rate is rising, so they're not the happiest people.
But wait. All right, so I have a question.
Results from the study show that in the first year of the pandemic, April 2020, the prevalence of people with depression and anxiety symptoms in America increased substantially from 11% to 2019. 11% people in 2019 to close to 40%. And then it says depression reached 9% among Americans 12 and older.
I believe that because I was working.
And fastest amongst teens and young adults.
Yeah,
so
I was working in a.
Teens and young adults. So
I was working in a job where I talked to a lot of people that were. I worked for the ride at one point in time, so people were trying to get out of the house. And just to talk to them, they were like, "Oh my God, I gotta get out of the house. I just, I haven't been out of the house in 2-3 years." I'm like, just go to the window. I mean, me during the pandemic, it was something that it was very mind-boggling. I was going stare crazy, cabin fever, all of that. But I just said, okay, focus on yourself. Do something positive. Change your eating. Do something, a hobby, whatever. But you didn't realize how many people out there were by themselves. Yeah. And they didn't go nowhere, and they were disabled, or they, people that was challenges couldn't get downstairs or whatever. However, they couldn't get out. And I said to one lady, I said, well, why don't you just go to the window? Open the window and look out the window. Even if you can't get out, just, go let some sun in. And we're so embottled with the four walls, we don't get out anymore. And we was talking earlier about, the social media and the kids on the phones all the time. They don't get outside to get the nourishment from the sun and from the earth. And,
that vitamin D.
Yeah, we need that vitamin D.
All right. Say, do you guys think that was an issue for you guys? Sorry.
Yeah.
Do you guys think that was an issue?
I just really let me just say something to you all, because this is what my husband told me before we got married. And I think that he was absolutely right. I married a man who was 20 years older than I am, and I was wife number 3. And one of the things he said to me before we got married, he said, realize no matter how we feel now and how good it feels, it will change. Yeah. Once you're married, it will change. And I didn't understand that until I was married. For some years, it does change. So however you all flow, I'm passing on my husband's information to y'all as you're going through the relationships, because he was absolutely right. We didn't agree on a lot of things, but we definitely agreed on that. And love is not necessarily enough.
Yeah, I completely agree with that.
Yes, not enough. And, we separated. Mm-hmm. We were separated for about 3 years. He got very sick. His family asked me to come back. I went back and took care of him until he died. And somebody said that, you are an angel. No, I'm not an angel. But I cannot see loving someone as deeply as we did and leave him when he needs me the most. Right. So that's what it is. And that's really what I wanted to say to you all.
Yeah.
That's what I learned from my husband. Do I want to get married again? Oh, hell no.
Yeah,
and that's why
that was really nice.
I didn't want you guys to think I'm like a naive. Like, I know there's going to be so many challenges, and that's why, like, when you guys talk about, you guys made the mistake so that we can learn from it. That's exactly right. Like my father was, a womanizer. I seen the damage he did to women, and I knew that's not what I wanted to do for myself. Great, like my mom always told me, great dad, terrible boyfriend, and I just wanted to be better than that. And even in our honeymoon phase, I still would tell my girlfriend, there's gonna be a time. That time will come, and when that time came, you knew when it came. And I think it all comes down to like that saying, like the grass is greener where you water it. Temptation is gonna come. Everybody, like it's not just men who like are get tempted. It's gonna be women aren't blind too. You know what I mean? And I think what centers me is knowing that like she loves me, but despite my own flaws, you know what I mean? So why wouldn't I? Exactly. And I love her despite her flaws. So
and you know what's funny? At your age, at you guys' ages in your early 20s, I never took really anybody serious because I was taught to. Yeah, this is what my father taught me. This: don't take nobody serious. Just just have your fun now. Have fun now, and then start to settle down when you turn 25 to 28. You know what I mean? Like then think about getting with somebody forever. But in my teens, in my early 20s. I didn't take anybody serious at all. Like I just had fun with them, but I kind of feel bad because I broke a lot of hearts back then. Like yeah, exactly. Like could have been the one. Yeah, some of them could have been the one. Yes, that's the thing. Some of them could have been the one, and I think back to that. I think back to that. Like you know what I mean?
Who you recognize as your role model, and the way that you said she was your role model, and by the way, you speak. Though you're a little bit younger than us, that you were serious.
No, I am serious. Yeah, no, of course.
Most you had a question.
Yeah, so I'm gonna just segue into this. So ass whippings, is it acceptable or is it not?
It is
100%.
Why is it acceptable? 100%. Why is it necessary?
Well, it was necessary. It was necessary for my generation because that's how my mother and father got down. Like you do something wrong, you got your ass tore up. And then you didn't do it no more. Like, period. Like no offense. I mean, not extreme, like with an extension cord and a paddle, whatever. Just, I used to get slapped on the butt by the bare hand. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I went through that. Or when I was 15, I got slapped in the face by my mother because I was being disrespectful to her, which I had that coming. Like, you know what I mean? So that put me in my place, and that made me not disrespect her anymore. But I don't know how it is nowadays, because nowadays kids can call the police, and if you abuse them, they can call DSS, the CBS or whatever, and they can call them and have you arrested. Next thing you know, you're in jail and your child's in foster care. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that baffled me when that came up. I came up with with the spare the rod, spoil the child, and grew up Muslim in a single mother household. My mom, I got the extension cord. It was the broomstick, and that's.
Broomstick? Ooh, really?
I mean, they the switch. They get everything. They was. Yeah, they made you go get the switch. But I mean, she never did it to a point where it was that it mentally messed me up. She didn't cut no skin because my mom came out of the era. She grew up in foster care, and she came out of the era where her foster mother was just coming out of slavery. So that mentality, my mom would get beat all the time because that was what was instilled. That was how we thought we were supposed to break, people down. That's what they did, in slavery. They broke us down, beating us. So as that generation, as black people came up and they started to beat their children. And, I remember I was 12 years old and my mom raised her hand at me. When I raised up. That's when I knew beatings better stop. The beatings got to stop, because now it's a different generation, it's a different time. And now I'm growing up in Roxbury as a young girl, in the 80s, I guess I'll say 80s, 90s, 70s. Well, I would have been 2. So the 80s, and growing up, seeing a lot of drugs and prostitution, on Blue Hill Ave and just those different little areas for me.
You haven't passed it down to your child?
Pass what down?
The whoopings.
Well, I'm a virtual mom. Yeah. So now at this stage in the game, for me, as I watch what's going on in the world, I don't want to be that abusive parent to down or talk down to, because I notice my friends or just people that that are just that whose parents talk to them disrespectfully.
Right.
And then they end up not being anybody because, well, they said I wasn't going to be shit, so I ain't shit.
Yeah.
So I don't want to talk to my son like that. I want him to know he is a champion. I want him to know I want to empower him because he's going to get it enough from the world,
That's
and then social media is, and I always ask my son, how's your mental? I asked my son those questions, even when he was a child, a baby, and, when I was around him. I asked him those hard questions. I didn't talk to my son like a baby. No. Right. I talked to him so he can speak and grow up and speak up for himself so he doesn't get taken advantage of in the world. Because in this entertainment world and growing up in Boston in the entertainment world as a young girl, 14, 15, and having to deal with, and I'm not going to say any names because I got to behave myself with that.
No, you don't.
But, and growing up with these music people and putting me in compromising situations. And I remember I slapped a producer one time for putting his lips on me. He was like, don't slap me. I said, don't put your nasty ass lips on me. Can we swear on this thing?
Yeah.
Your nasty ass lips on me. It was what was that? PTSD? Yeah. Because later on in life, this individual spoke to me at 50. I'm 52. I'm thinking I'm cool. And this individual is on the phone with me and still that energy. Well, I should have talked to you then. Because I said he talked to my sister. He's like, I should have talked to you then. And I'm like, you're 80-something years old and you're still that person? And so that's what some of the things I had to grow up with. It made it hard to move through freely because we're subjected to a lot of sexual behavior. And if we don't give out, then we don't get in. Exactly. Jaguar Wright's going on a tangent about everybody in the industry because she's been, I've been in it lightly, but she's been in it all the way. So, it's mental illness. Lauryn Hill. I mean, just that industry. And sometimes I thank God that I didn't make it. Because I can freely walk down the street. I still got my mental somewhat. People do call me crazy, but I'm all right. But and sometimes I'm as I look and I'm like, wow, how do I find my way back into that? Because I don't want to be fake, phony. I want to keep it 100, but also want to teach. At the same time, you just want them to know that hey, if it doesn't happen, you're gonna be all right. You're still going to be all right. You understand? You may not have gotten that, whatever, because you're watching someone else's life. And to remember to come back and
I have a phrase. I'm nobody, but I'm somebody anyway. Mm-hmm. I'm nobody to the public, but I'm somebody to my family. I'm somebody to my friends. I'm somebody to my man. Yeah, and that's all that really counts. Like, on some real shit, I never really wanted fame at all. Like, my grandmother, this was crazy. My grandmother used to sing... And I forgot the name of the club. The club was called The Clam here in Boston. I forgot what club my grandmother used to sing at. And my grandmother, she didn't want fame either, even though she used to sing at this club, Marion Strauss. She used to sing at it, but she never. And she actually had a chance to sing with Nat King Cole. Oh, wow. Yeah, she did. She had a chance to sing with him, and somebody came up to her. But my grandmother, I asked my grandmother, I said, why didn't you take the opportunity to I said, why didn't you take top? And she said, with all my kids and be away from them. And she was like, and not being on the road all the time and not spending time with my children. She was like, no, I did not want fame. The reason why I sang at that club was to make extra money to feed my family. And that's it. She was like, that's what I said. My grandmother never wanted fame. She never wanted, and it makes it so funny, like with most of the people in my family, we really don't want it. We like being nobody, because the second the public knows who you are, you become public property. That way, everybody knows your business. Everybody knows what's going on. Everybody like I can't. I can't live like that. Like I believe on some real shit. If I became famous when I was younger, we wouldn't be talking right now because I'd be dead. Like for real, I was a wild kid, so that's how I know I'd be dead right about now. I wouldn't be talking to you guys right now.
There's something about what you're saying and what you all do now, and I've had to get used to it. Folks in the phones, and I perform And I've had to get over it because I have no control of it now. At one point, performers were trying to control it. But it's clear nobody tries to control it anymore. Constantly. You Google me, stuff will pop up. My performances all over. I have no control. I don't particularly like it, but it's something I've had to become accustomed to, you know. The numbers don't put no money in my pocket because I'm not flowing on them, you know, the internet. But I wanted to know about, because I watched you all, and how do you feel about that? Do you know, in terms of recording, because it really is whatever generation you call X, Y, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I feel you. I think like for me, I've never been like a fan. I'm like of like recording like different things that you're like experiencing. I'm really like live in the moment type of person. Also think like as a performer myself, like I think like there's like pros and cons. You feel me? On one end, it's like people will record it and it's like they're posting it. You get like some type of credit because more people are like they're able to see you that might not have been there in person, and they might not have been able to experience it on their own. But now they're able to experience it through their screen. They're able to experience it in some forms through social media, and that draws attention towards you as an artist. And maybe they'll see it next time, or maybe they'll be driven to see it because they're like that looks like a good experience. And then like there's always gonna be a part of me that's always like I wish people would just experience this for what it is in the moment, because I think like that exactly, you know, because I think it's significant.
Yeah, watch you instead of the phone.
You know what I mean? I'm like, how you watching me? I'm in front of you, but you're watching me through a screen.
It limits the experience.
Exactly.
I think it depends. Like in the theater, you don't see the audience. So
Yeah, because
that's true.
They don't do it in theater.
So we don't really care. But like being like 3 years ago, I was more like it was my sister and I doing the plays. So and I was more of a performer, but just getting the videos from my friends, like certain highlights and saying, "Oh my God, girl, that drop." It really did actually help me for my next performance. This year, being the executive producer, being like the theater company owner, actually watching people afterwards, like, or just people reposting, or people who came to my house after just like wanting to like literally like depict like certain parts of the play. I got it finally. I was like, oh my God, like this is how they live. This is how they experience things. So it didn't bother me in the moment, because we literally, like in the theater, you don't see anything when you're on stage. So if anybody wants to act and you're scared, come see me. You're not gonna see anybody in the audience. But seriously, you don't see anybody in the audience. You're like, the lights are so bright that you're like looking into darkness, and you're just kind of living in the moment. So to go back, but then you're like kind of second guessing yourself. You're like, wait, was that good? Like, especially like being a dancer, you're like, was that good? Did that look the way I wanted to as a choreographer? And to have people send me videos in the moment. At first, like I couldn't understand it watching it like in a movie, people doing things like that, but living it, I have to say, like, you guys do experience things differently, and it does. Just like you guys feel like violence, and we feel like you guys may act out, be more bold in different ways. That boldness can be very beneficial in other ways.
It's hard. It's hard.
This next question is from Ms. Valerie and Tamara. How do you guys feel about the modern day young woman? Young woman, let's say between the age of 25 and 40.
Well, I mean, that age group is actually the age group of folks who follow me. I think that I watch them, the women who are in that age, and I think about what they've benefited from what my generation went through, and especially as black women. My generation, I don't have any children. I'm the first part of a generation that it was not required for us to have kids. It was not required for us to get married. You know, we had jobs and we made big cash, and we traveled all over the world, and that our generation was the first, especially for black women. So I watch that, and I see, sometimes I find myself smiling because they don't seem to have the same requirements or expectations that we had to make certain decisions. You know, me as a woman or a boomer, you know, I am constantly being asked, why don't you have children? Because that was expected of my generation. That's not expected of the women in that age group. You know, there's certain freedoms that that age group has that we just didn't have. And if you took them, sometimes you take the freedom and say, to hell with all you all, this is me, I accept me, this is what I'm going to do, and I will learn or unlearn stuff on the way. But it's a different battle, and it's a constant battle.
Right.
But I think overall, I mean, I think the women in that age group are stronger than the men in that age group. And I find it to be sad in certain ways. We haven't, there's a brother, I was trying to get a grant to write a piece, The Heart of a Black Man. I wanted to write this based on this brother who said to me once, you all don't want to see my heart, you'll think I'm weak. And I felt so bad for this person because he felt he could not be himself. So it's a matter of figuring out what's expected. I have seen a level of entitlement. I don't necessarily see the strength, but there's a good strength and there's a bad strength. Bad strength comes from, I think, insecurity and fear. That strength where, I can beat your ass, bitch. I don't, but it needs to be a balance in that. Again, I speak pretty directly because I deal with musicians all the time. But this is what I see. Even as you are sitting here, I see you. I see the confidence that wasn't there before. Women who went into this field didn't just say, I'm going in this field, I'm going to do the work, and I'm going to make it. Because they knew they had too many things to fight. Too many. Some of them are coming up now, and you're seeing it. So I don't know. I don't envy you, because I think that the challenges you have are different.
Right.
So I don't envy you. I mean, I'm pretty happy with who I am and how I flow. But I as you and I talk, as we first met, if I can give, I will give you. If I can do something to help you, I will. Because,
and you have.
Yeah.
That's how I met Miss Valerie. Y'all met her in a grocery store. I was with my son. I think it was like a Stop and Shop or something. And I'm really big on storytelling. This was maybe like 6 or 7 months ago, and I'm really big on storytelling. I was thinking to myself, dang, if somebody could just teach me how to tell a story. And my son, he is 2, and he talks to everybody in the aisle. And we were going down the aisle, and Miss Valerie was coming towards us, and she was looking for her stuff, and he said something to her, and they were talking. And she and I started to talk, and somehow we got on the subject of storytelling, and I was like, and she told me that she teaches kids and she teaches older people how to tell stories. And I said, dang, can you teach me how to tell a story? And she said, yeah. I said, I have so many stories to tell, but I just feel like I'm not good at telling the story. And she was like, you can tell a story. Anybody can tell a story. If you have a story to tell, you can tell it. Pretty much. And she was like, and I was like, she told me that she was a performer, and she gave me her information, and she told me to call her. And this is my first time seeing her since that grocery. We were at that grocery store.
Yeah.
So
That's crazy.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I flow. I think art is a way towards freedom, because art gives you a voice.
Right.
It gave me, when I talked about, when I started performing in college, and I'm still in contact with my original theater teacher, but it changes your life. I mean, you're a performer. You've seen your family perform, your grandmother.
Actually, I was a performer a long time ago with the dance, the DYC.
Yeah.
DYC was the thing back then, and we were all into dancing, where the Grover Cleveland have an after-school program where I was a part of that. It was called Nation of Peace. And we all performed at the Boston Commons. We all performed everywhere. We did fashion shows and stuff like that. Don't get me wrong, I was into that stuff. But then I ended up falling into other stuff as I got
that
older.
happens.
Art
art
seems
brings
to
other
happen.
stuff. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
They don't have much of that stuff anymore, I think. Because I remember growing up, too, and performing with the van that goes to the neighborhoods all over.
That's summer thing. Summer thing.
The summer thing, and doing those things. And had a lot of, activities. I don't think that's going on too much now.
Yeah. And that was a question I wanted to ask you all. out of, all right, my generation, we moved in groups. There were societies, there were clubs, there were organizations, and we were pushed and to think about what we're doing for the community. The community needs us to do something, and to collectively we can create change. Do you feel any of that at all
Yeah, I think definitely.
with the internet?
Yeah, because I think like a part of like our community and like some of the cool things about like us engaging online is that when you care enough, like it doesn't stay there. You know what I mean? Like we don't have to, like we don't have to meet in person for the first time until like the rally. You feel me? But we gonna be there, and I think like that's something that we've seen as like our generation continues to like just like figure out ways to organize together and like really like outsmart opposition. Like white supremacy is like a real threat to our existences. Like as like black people, for folks that identify as like women and femmes, like it's just a consistent presence that's always there. It's looming. It's like a threat.
Yeah.
And so for all of us, it's like we're not only able to educate ourselves utilizing the internet and utilizing social media, but then when we meet in person, we're able to act out the strategies that we've learned, and like we take the time to really like build community, because like at least for like us, you know what I mean, like we don't even live in like the same city. You feel me? Like I live in Boston, these guys live in like different parts of Massachusetts, but we come together like every week to be able to like engage with each other and have conversations with each other that enlighten us on different levels, because we care about the people that are in front of us, and we care about the community that we're sharing those stories with. You know what I mean? So I think it's possible
that's
for
good
sure.
to hear. I was wondering about that, you know, and how you're doing. You know, and I know it can come at a different time, but I also know that it's extremely important. You know, I didn't talk about my mom growing up because she had 6 kids. It was really, really hard. I came back from college. My mom became a community organizer, and became very well known and traveled all over the world, but it came to her very late in her life. You know, so everybody can get there, but I haven't seen what. Listen, I'm old. I'm going to need y'all, okay? Because ultimately you're going to end up taking care of my ass, okay? So what are you all doing for the community?
Right.
And that's why I had to ask it like that, because I'm not seeing anything. I mean, I know what I do and the work that I do.
What do you want to see, Miss Valerie, from your perspective, from your end? What are you expecting
Well, we were
from the younger
talking
generation?
about folks and what they're doing at this age, and yet I'm not hearing about places where they can get help or where they can gather together and share information. It's like we talked about, we had different things in different organizations. That, and like, art's important, you know. Is anybody doing that? Or working to make your community strong? We sat up here and talked about how Roxbury is changing and being taken away. I'm being moved out of it, and I'm a cultural icon. So I'm supposed to have some clout, and it don't mean anything. They're still moving my ass out. So it's like, what's happening? You know?
No, I mean, to point out like what's really happening is like he spoke on how we meet every week, because we have our own podcast, and I remember like I just wanted to start a podcast because we have these conversations all the time, and it's like, why not just get a camera and mic in front of us? But a lot of people do podcasts, and it wasn't until when Nate, because of Nate, it added that new element to it of the community aspect of it, because he does community organizing on his own, and he also works at an organization called Teen Empowerment, and basically like they pay students to work on their art, whether they're dancers, whether they're artists.
Amazing.
So imagine that opportunity where you can work on your art and get paid for it, and you're out of the streets and you're around other youth who are creatives as well and are motivating you. So I know you mentioned that crabs in the bucket mentality. I think as we're getting smarter, we have more information. We've seen the faults of, what gatekeeping looks like, and what, trying to shut people out of certain opportunities look like. So I think that's why I would say there's a more concerted effort of being more community centric. And I see it. I'm not even from Boston, but I see the community that's building. I've been welcomed like with open arms to the art community, the music community, and I see it building right in front of us, and it's only getting stronger. And I can let Nate speak to it because he's actually in the trenches with it.
Yeah.
In the trenches. Yeah, I think like there's a lot of community organizing like spaces in the city. Like a lot of them are like very like youth centric. Like folks like the Youth Justice and Power Union, like they work with young people to really like get them like engaged. And a lot of those folks have now like transitioned into like organizing this like the young people now. They're organizing amongst their peers, amongst like folks like myself. You know what I mean? Yeah, Dorchester Art Project is another one. You know what I mean? Again, like these are like folks with the community organizing backgrounds, arts backgrounds that are coming together to be able to like organize and rally together against different issues that are impacting us. You know what I mean? Just next week, if you're interested, the folks over at I Have a Future Massachusetts, they're another like cohort that works with like young people from all across Massachusetts, but they're located in Upham's Corner. They're having like a rally like where like that they're organizing basically like the Dreams of Our Future rally is what it's called, where they're focusing on like getting young people to like lobby and like meet with their state representatives and meet with their state senators and be like, yo, this is the stuff that's going on and we're young people, we're in mass and we care about this and let's talk about it. Like we're pushing for these things. So, you know, I think it's really dope. There's a lot of that's going on. We could definitely talk offline about it too.
Yeah,
like more
give me that information. I'm feeling better
Let's
already.
not forget too, while we were all stuck in the pandemic, we all came out for the George Floyd protest, and that was a huge protest, and that was organized by 4 black women. 3, 4?
Yeah.
Three black women who organized that whole effort, and you see how many people popped out to that. So it just shows like you may not see it, you know, but it's active. You know, so I want to give you hope that like we're not, you know, it's not lost hope.
Right.
You know.
You see me smiling.
I'm sorry, before we move on. Okay. Before we move on, though, I have to ask you guys, because you guys are 3 young black men, and I'm not trying to like come at you guys. I think that you guys, there's actually more programming now than there was back then. It's just there was more programming towards arts and different things. But when it comes to social justice, you guys definitely are like, you guys got it. But the question is, how come black men are still not thriving? Because you guys have to remember, you guys are like-minded men, so you guys are coming together, you guys are trying to build this community, you guys are working with these organizations, but what efforts maybe do you guys feel you see happening already or can be made to actually, you know, kind of cast a bigger net towards the young men who are falling through the crack? Because unfortunately, as black women are, you know, part of like the, you know, largest educated group in America. Basically, we're progressing. And we have a lot of community when it comes to black women. I think this is a conversation like why are black women thriving, why black men aren't. It's because we are comfortable with each other, and even though we are, you know, get tough and keep on moving, we have that mentality as well. We still are able to lean on each other and like figure things out and push ideas, and we motivate each other, and we're not afraid to say, you know, I love you, like keep it going. So I guess I'm just asking, like, you know, what do you guys like? What are some ideas? How are we gonna, you know, how are we gonna get those other young men? Because that stat is still happening, right? Our black men are still dying. Suicide rates are up. People are starting to get back into narcotics that we were leaving alone, that we were learning were not for us, not for our community, but we're falling back into the trap. So I guess I'm asking, like, what do you guys see happening, or what do you guys feel needs to happen in order for us to, like, capture, like, the other kids, not kids, sorry, young men?
Nah, I got you. I think, like, one of the biggest things that we like focus on is like focusing on a like solution oriented like process, and like what that starts with is like understanding like the symptoms of like some of the like root causes, understanding like where those things come from, what are the root causes, and then moving forward and figuring like solutions that like meet people where they're at. I think a lot of young men feel very like stuck, they feel lost because things are happening around them that are like they're and like societal pressures all around them basically telling them that like they're not capable of doing different things, they're not capable of being anything greater than like what, you know, is being presented to them.
This is not their world.
You know, exactly. That's kind of like someone else's world, and we're living in it, right? And I think it's like a constant like feeling where you want to like strive for like greatness, but you seek it out in like different ways that might not always be the best for you, the best for the people that care about you, the best for your community overall. And that's just like, you know, that's something that we've seen over the last 30 years, and it's been a historical thing, but in the last 30 years it's been like especially bad because some of those societal and like even 40 years really, and like starting in the 80s.
Like, I really want to know, like,
yeah, I think one of the biggest things
on the ground, like,
I think there has to be people that like are there to like not only educate but also to take action and take a stand against it, right? So I think like part of like my role and like the work that I do and have been doing, right, is like serving as like a role model for like young people, but not just doing it in like a superficial way where it's like, look at me, you can do what I'm doing, stuff like this, but it's like I'm guiding them along the way. It's like very very hands on. I'll work with like whoever it is. You feel me? It's like I'll lose sleep over the young people that I work with because I care
Don't
about
do
them.
that.
Right.
I need you not to burn out. So.
Oh yeah, nah, that's the same thing. You know what I mean? I'm 25 now, so like for me.
Okay, but I need you not to burn out.
No, I'm saying for me, like I've like learned along the way where it's like, yeah, I'm not doing that anymore.
From a social worker point of view, don't do that.
But it's like those are the types of things where it's like in those moments, like making those sacrifices on like a need to need basis because I want to meet them where they're at. You feel me? And like I'll like adjust and I'll like adapt and I'll like transition as I get older and as I like, you know, maneuver away from like some of the bad habits that I've formed like in like, you know, caring for some folks. But at the same time, like I know that I'm willing to do that and the people around me are willing to do the same. You know?
That's what's up.
Yeah, well, you'll make other ones. I think that using art, that's what I was trying to get funding for. Yeah. To create a piece and use artists. I didn't want to perform in it. I wanted to produce it. Yeah. But I talked to artists, and I had artists lined up, vocalists, musicians, dancers. I personally love crump dancing. I think it is so expressive. Really?
Yes. I look crazy, but I did want to. Yes.
Yeah. I think it is so expressive of that raw emotion. I think it is a perfect dance for what we have been talking about on a day-to-day basis. The frustration and the anger that is in your mind and it comes out through your body.
Remember that, like, it was like the front lines of the song?
Yeah, man. Don't get me started. So, all right,
y'all, we're going to take a quick break.
Yes. Oh, okay.
That's what I listen to.